community, on a prosecutor's office, on a sheriff's office, and on national agencies. I want to extend my most heartfelt thanks to the sheriff's office, Sheriff Roybal. Your team was fantastic throughout this investigation. But our local authorities, we just couldn't get it done because of the breadth and scope of this investigation. And so I really want to point out and thank our federal partners, John Cronin there at the end and Andrew Cohen next to him with the FBI. Without the FBI's involvement in this case, we're probably not standing here today, just due to the breadth of this case. I want to talk a little bit about divine intervention too. There's without a doubt that divine intervention played a role in this case at different times. Most importantly, when we talk about what happened with Macon Ponder down there in Pensacola, Florida. On March 17th, as he's inspecting that bridge, he finds Gannon's remains and closes that last loophole for us. Gives this family some closure as to what happened to their sweet boy Gannon. But that was truly divine intervention. That bridge is inspected once every 2 years. If he had been at that bridge just a month and a half, 2 months prior, it's likely that Gannon's remains are never found. God's fingerprints are on this case. Same thing goes for finding that board up at the S-curve in southern Douglas County. Hard work, perseverance, investigative know-how, and God's fingerprints allowed us to solve this case and bring justice for Gannon, to bring justice for Al Stauch and Landon Bullard, and this community. I've never seen a community come together like the Lorson Ranch community did, El Paso County, really the world. Every single mother that heard about this case fell in love with Gannon, his sweet smile, his bubbly personality, and the fact that his life was cut short in the most horrific way possible. Lady Justice is famously clothed with a blindfold. She lifted her blindfold and was aghast at what she saw in this case. And that defendant, that horrible stepmother, a stepmother of nightmares, will never breathe a free breath again. I can't say enough about this community, about this investigative team, and about these two parents who will never be whole. I'm sorry, guys. I love you both. And you know that this office will always be here for you. I want to turn it over now to Sheriff Joe Roybal.
Good afternoon. Gannon's disappearance and the subsequent exhaustive search garnered local, national, and worldwide attention. The outpouring of community support was overwhelming and an example of the heart of the citizens of El Paso County and our country. When tragedy strikes, we all come together. Still to this day, there are ribbons, signs, and tributes across our community for Gannon. And I want to share with the parents of Gannon. As I walk the office, especially in investigations, there's still photos and tributes to Gannon. A reminder of why the deputies, the investigators, worked tirelessly. They gave their all, and Gannon had an impact on each and every one of them. I couldn't be more proud. This case was arguably one of the largest in Sheriff's Office history, in both notoriety and depth of information collected. To this point, it is important for me to acknowledge the hard work and sacrifice and dedication of the men and women of the El Paso County Sheriff's Office and the resolve to bring Gannon's killer to justice. For each of you, the Sheriff's Office, you have my gratitude my love, and my support. As with any large investigation, we have not done it alone without the exhaustive efforts of partners in our law enforcement community. The value of relationships and strong collaboration amongst law enforcement organizations across local, state, and federal levels cannot be overstated. And Gannon's case highlights this importance. I'd like to acknowledge the agencies who helped my detectives come to resolution. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, thank you. The 4th Judicial District Attorney's Office, the Colorado Springs Metro Crime Lab, and the Colorado Springs Police Department, the Fountain Police Department, the Colorado Bureau of Investigations, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina Police Department, Horry County, South Carolina Sheriff's Office, Rhode Island State Police, Dickinson County, Kansas Sheriff's Office, Kansas State Patrol, and Santa Rosa, Florida County Sheriff's Office. As you can see, law enforcement agencies across the country came together to seek justice for Gannon, for the parents of Gannon who were hurting, for the local community who was hurting. I want to thank the citizens of El Paso County who served on the jury and played an integral role in the criminal justice process, which is no easy task. You helped to bring closure and found justice for Gannon's family. Lastly, I want to thank District Attorney Michael Allen and his talented team for their commitment and aggressively prosecuting this case and bringing Gannon's killer to justice. Thank you. Now, I have the honor, privilege of introducing Gannon's loving parents.
Hello, everyone. About 3 years ago, we were set up in this similar room, giving us the worst news that was imaginable. The news that our son was no longer alive. And now I stand here today with some of the happiest news that we have waited 3 years for, is that he has finally received justice. And we have no more fears of this lady, the defendant. She will be locked up for the rest of her life, and I can sleep at night knowing that she will not harm anyone else. I thank the community. I thank Larson Ranch. I thank my church family. I thank Restoration. I thank everyone that is here today, Albert's family, my family, people that are watching at home. I also want to thank the judge, the jurors, and Michael Allen and your team for putting up with me and my emotional mess that I've been since from the beginning. But I've adopted a new family, and I'm very blessed to have you in Gannon's Army. You are a true inspiration, all of you. The days that I've had doubt and questions, you stood by us, and I'm very thankful. I can't give enough thanks. It's just one of those things that I just have to give God all the glory, because he has been a gracious God. When Gannon was born, we had one other time to fill the room. Gannon was born 1 pound, 6 ounces. Our church came and the whole hospital was filled. This other time is in the courtroom in this 3-year journey. And I'm so thankful for every search effort, for every manpower that was put in, every foot that walked across the snow. You never gave up. And earlier, divine intervention was mentioned, and I have full faith. 11:11 was in some messages, the body being found. It's one of the hardest things to accept, but it was also one of the biggest pieces to this puzzle. And I'm so thankful to serve a God that would open paths for us to keep moving forward. So I stand here today when I encouraged you last time just to do good deeds, to make sure you tell your loved ones you love them. If you have a hard spot in your heart, just pray that you can get it out, because you're never promised tomorrow. We wake up and we think that we have our days planned, and little do we know things can happen, and that can change your whole aspect of life. But I pray that our community continue to come in together in times that we definitely need it. There's too much evil going on in this world. And I am blessed to be Gannon's mom. 11 years that we were given with him. He's done more in his 11 years than a lot of us would do in a lifetime. So I pray that and ask that you continue to carry his legacy. And I will be forever grateful and proud for everything that you all have done. I thank you with all that I have. And again, thank you, team, for everything. You are my family. And Gannon is dancing. I know that he is, and he's running the clouds like Sonic, and I'm sure he's singing songs, as you know, Albert, and he's probably looking down, playing video games with you and letting us know what game's going to come out next. He's never going to leave us. And I'm so thankful that you're his father. And it's been an amazing blessing to call him our son. So thank you, guys.
So I just want to start with something I said in my statement in the courtroom that, you know, it's hard to say this, but Gannon, he's still with us. It's hard to not to talk about him in the past tense, but he's with us, Landon, and he always will be. And I feel that he will be with many of us through the community and the families that are here and all over this country, as I've learned throughout this investigation. So thank you all for that and your love and support. Today, I just want to leave you with two words. And the first word I don't use lightly based on what we've been through for the past 5 or 6 weeks, but the dichotomy of this situation. As what we saw in the courtroom today, I think is a true win for everybody involved, for the justice system, for us as the family. But for me, it only solidifies the loss that I'll never get to see my boy again. And as we learn to move forward, we're never going to move on, but as we learn to move forward in our lives, we're never going to let him go. And that I can stand firm on. The second word I want to leave you with today is joy. And before I get into that, I do want to say, remind the world, the only crime Gannon committed was being a mama's boy. And if that carries a sentence of death, then I'm next, because I love my mama. And I guarantee you there's men and boys all over this world who would carry the same thing. I'm a father now to some additional kids that have come along my way, and 6 boys, and they're all mama's boys too. Every single one of them. But that second word, joy, that's what I want to leave you with. As a result of this horrible tragedy, I've had so many positive things come in my life. The community support, the finding a new family, as Landon said, with the all the people that supported the investigation. But my wife, who also had a tragedy in her life, Melissa, lost a son in 2020 as well. One that didn't get the publicity of Gannon, one that nobody knows about. But we decided as we met and developed our relationship that through tragedy, we will triumph. And the joy that she has brought into my life, and we have 6 kids, and all those kids have brought into my life as well, is worth every minute of the heartache. As she said in her words that she had me share, would we trade it for having our boys back? Absolutely not. But all we can do is take what we're given and move forward and try to find the joy in our lives and not let the pain overcome us. As you heard in my statement, I refuse to let the pain and the heartache and seeking vengeance overcome me and take me away from who I am. And lastly, obviously, I've already expressed my thanks and gratitude to everyone you see in front of you, but I do want to say a special thank you to the media. Early on in this, I asked you to take a step back from doing your job and show me and the rest of Landon and I and our family some respect. And just, I promised you that when this is over, I'll do my part and answer some questions. And I think we're going to get into that in a little bit. But from the bottom of my heart, Nicole, Colette, and everyone else that has had a part of the media, thank you so much for respecting us, our privacy, our peace, and all of that. I thank you.
So just wrapping up with some comments, I want to point out the hard work that was put in by my prosecution team. Brought in Dave Young, former district attorney from Adams County. He was instrumental in this case. As we all know, we had another horrific case that popped up in mid-November that took all of my attention away from this case for a period of time. And Dave really jumped in and filled that gap for me. And we couldn't have gotten to where we are today without his tireless work on this case. Angelina Gratiano, standing to his left, has been on this case almost from the beginning, probably a couple weeks or a month after I was first involved. Worked on wiretaps with the FBI to make sure that we were catching all those calls that we were able to put into evidence. Instrumental work on your part, Angelina, invaluable part of this team. Cecil Weir and Stephanie Courtney, our two investigators just to Angelina's left. Fantastic investigators. They have done everything we've asked them to do throughout this case, marshaling evidence to the courtroom, doing interviews, really anything that we've needed on this thing. And can't say enough great things about the work that you two have put in on this case, so thank you. Finally, the last part of our team that's up here with us is Kim Danluck. She just got promoted to a manager position, so everybody should congratulate her for that. But she is without a doubt the best DA's paralegal in the state of Colorado. The work that she has put in on this case to help us achieve justice for these two can't be counted. There were nights when the rest of us would be here late and then we would leave. She'd still be here. One night, in fact, we all left and she goes to her car late that night and she had a flat tire and had to call her husband down here to help her change that tire. All of these people are dedicated to the pursuit of justice. That's what the DA's office is all about. That's what everybody standing up here is all about, is pursuing justice, giving a voice to those who can't speak for themselves in the courtroom. And I can't say enough good things about this team and about the work that they put in, the dedication that they put in. And I actually just realized I missed a person down there. The bald guy down there standing by the FBI, Kevin Clark. I stole him from CSPD as a crime analyst, and he has been instrumental in this case as well. Those timelines that you saw the last sort of day roughly of peer testimony from the prosecution, Kevin put in countless hours on those timelines, countless hours on pulling those searches out of the defendant's phone. And really, it's those timelines, putting all the pieces together in sequence and putting them in context to what was happening with the investigation. And then those web searches that the defendant was engaging in really were instrumental in proving her premeditation, her intent, her abject hatred, and really everything she put into this case. And Kevin was the one that unlocked that key for us. Can't say enough good things about what Kevin has done. So with that, I would open it up to any questions you all might have. And again, thank you all for being here and getting this story out. Gannon deserved all of this. Deserved every hour that we spent on this case collectively, from the family to the investigation team and the prosecution team, and all of the effort that you all put in as well. Gannon deserved it. And I thank you so much for being a part of it. So with that, I'd open it up. Yes.
Was there ever a concern that the jury would return a not guilty verdict?
Not in my mind, there wasn't. There was just too much evidence in this case. I think it was pretty clear what we were dealing with as far as an evidentiary perspective, and it never crossed my mind that she would be found guilty and spend the rest of her days in prison. Colette?
So Friday was hard. It was really hard because you get your hopes up and then you have to kind of think again of things that could hold things back. And waiting through the weekend was hard. But I had Lena, so it made things much better. But I don't wish it on anyone. It was very brutal for me. I'm sure it was for Albert as well, but it was a horrible waiting game, even though that 3 years felt like it was slow and now it's sped up. The weekend felt much longer waiting for this.
Yeah, absolutely. It was tough, but let me tell you, I just mentioned we have 6 kids. So Saturday it was track meet, soccer game, back to the track meet, Denver for basketball games, got home at 11, get up on Sunday, do it all over again. So we stay pretty busy. Thankfully in this setting, but yeah, in the down times, it was hard. Friday was absolutely, it was a wave of emotions up and down as we waited. And, but I've never got downtown so quick today after we got the text or the call. So yeah, thankful for the result though.
Joe said he's going to get rid of that speeding ticket.
Yeah, please.
What speeding ticket?
Would you guys, if you can also, if you don't mind, stand at the podium and answer, your parents, when you heard guilty come from the judge, what was your reaction?
could breathe
Come over
for
here
the
and
first time.
they want you on
I'm
microphone.
sorry.
Yep.
I could breathe for the first time. You know, sitting back and you have a 50-50 shot, right? It's one way or the other. And so when that guilty verdict and everything came out, I was happy. Like, it's one of those times, it feels like a little kid at Christmas time, if that makes sense, that you've waited so long and the day is finally here. So it was the best feeling. So
Yeah, I think my best way I can explain it is how I did in my statement. It's been really hard, and just open it up a little bit here. It's been really hard to access Gannon throughout these past 3 years, and hopefully I can start doing that a little bit more now that this part is behind us. That's really for me, kind of just a weight lifted off, another weight lifted off, and I can start experiencing my son a little bit more as time goes on.
DA Allen, is there, for the prosecution team, is there any doubts or, no, not doubts, but questions about that day and what happened? Are there any other just outstanding questions about what happened to Gannon?
Well, we know what happened to Gannon. What we don't know is truly the why. And that's something that we'll live with forever. We're never going to know that. This defendant is not the kind that's going to ever give us that satisfaction. In fact, I think it's fairly clear from the evidence that we presented at trial and her conduct during trial, which was abhorrent, completely abhorrent. It's just another twist of the knife. And I choose, and I hope that these folks choose to not give her any satisfaction in that, and to just know that Gannon is in a better place now, and that we achieved all the justice that we could achieve here on earth, and she's got to answer questions to a higher power at some point in her life. But that's not for us to consider. That young man, that beautiful little boy, did not deserve what he got. It's the most horrific thing I've ever seen as a prosecutor.
Can you please confirm the charge that was dismissed?
Yeah, you're talking about the other case? Yeah, so that was based off of a solicitation to escape from the jail. There was statements made from other people in the jail that she had solicited another inmate to help her escape from the jail. Really, the level of that case is so low that it's inconsequential and would not have really done anything for us in the big grand scheme of things. My goal is that she's been convicted now and sentenced to life in prison without parole. Let's get her off to her last place here in Colorado, which is the Department of Corrections, where she'll serve the rest of her days in prison. Anything else? Yes.
Because you kind of talked about this, biggest investigation, the county has ever seen. Can you kind of take us behind the scenes in the preparation it took for this trial?
Yeah, the preparation really starts from day one. And that's why we do things the way we do here in the 4th Judicial District, in that, first of all, we have really good relationships with our law enforcement partners. On any homicide case, we have an on-call team. So we have attorneys and investigators that go out from the very beginning and go work with the investigation. That gives you an organic knowledge of the case that is an invaluable resource when you get into a trial posture. And then, because of the complexity of this case and the manipulation of this particular defendant, this was a tough case to investigate. She was doing her best to send the investigation off, chasing wild rabbits all over the county. And in some respects, she was pretty successful with that. But I can tell you that there were daily meetings during the pendency of this investigation, those early days, starting with the sheriff's office, where we would get together every single day, talk about any new developments, give out new assignments, and I was there for every single one of those. Then as it became bigger and we brought in the FBI, or rather the FBI was able to give us the resources that they were able to give us, we switched over to their building and we're doing the same thing there, where we were in a big meeting room. We had timelines spread out all over the wall. Some of those timelines were some of the birth childs of the timelines that Kevin put into evidence early or late in this trial. But we would do the same thing. We would have all these resources coming together, talking about different leads, what people have been doing, and how we're going to tackle the next steps in the investigation. Then, as that stuff is coming together, it's really making sure that we're boiling it down to something that can be understandable, because truly the breadth of this case was unimaginable. It's like nothing I've ever seen before, as far as the volume of reports that were written, the number of videos that were collected, obviously the wiretap phone calls, the consensual phone calls. And we have to sift through every single bit of that and figure out what's important to present to a trial, or to a jury, I should say, what's going to be important for a jury to consider. And when we're in those early stages, we're talking about trying to prove premeditation after deliberation with intent and gathering evidence on that front. But luckily we had some foresight and we were looking for mental health information as well, because it's fairly typical in a case like this, although I've never had a case like this, but in a case like this, that we will have to tackle that mental health defense. And it's good that we did that, because we started planting those questions early on in some of the questions that Al was asking the defendant, in some of those recorded phone calls. And then Special Agent Johnny Grusing with the FBI, his knowledge of the case was instrumental in really getting out kernels of things that were really important towards that effort. And so then we had to switch our gears and really start going after that not guilty by reason of insanity defense that they were mounting, obviously. And it just was a lot. It took a lot of hours, uncountable hours by every single person up here to get to where we are today. And well, at some point I'd like to go back and just think about that a little bit. And it's just awesome, the work that was put in on this case.
The defense asked if she could be placed at the San Carlos Correctional Facility.
Yeah.
Do you know why, and is that something that you are opposed to, or are you upset by?
Yeah, so the way it works with Colorado Department of Corrections is that anytime a person is remanded to the custody of Department of Corrections, they go to DRDC. It's Denver Regional Diagnostic Center up in Denver, where they do assessments on defendants, look at their risk level, that kind of thing, and determine what facility would be the best for a particular defendant. A defense attorney asking that really has no bearing on whether that happens, and a judge actually can't tell Department of Corrections how to conduct their business that way. So the judge only sentences to the custody of Department of Corrections, and then it's up to Department of Corrections to determine the placement. I can tell you that based on what I know about this defendant, the fact that she's a flight risk, that she's violent, the fact that she attacked deputies in a vehicle on her transport back here to Colorado, the fact that she solicited other inmates at the jail to escape the jail, I have no doubt that she will be placed in the most high security facility that Department of Corrections has. And that's where she belongs, is in the most secure facility in the Department of Corrections. Yes.
If she goes on to appeal, is that something that you're already prepared for, or how do you expect to tackle that if that comes up?
Well, that will undoubtedly happen. In any case of this magnitude, there will be appeals. The way that you prepare for that is really starting again from the very beginning, making sure that you're getting a good investigation, and then making sure that you're putting on a really strong prosecution, that you're following the rules of evidence, that sort of thing, making sure discovery is accounted for and provided to defense. If you do those things at the early stages, you're going to fare much better in the appeals process. And that really gets back to that preparation question that I got just a moment ago, is that not only are you preparing for the trial on a case like this, you know you're going to go to trial. And so you're also thinking about any appeal ramifications that might exist down the road, because they will come. But because of the effort that we put in this case, I don't really have any concerns about that. But we'll tackle them when they come.
And then just to clarify, didn't she technically receive 2 life sentences for the 2
Yeah.
separate murder charges, the one for the child?
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah, so there were 2 counts of murder in the first degree. The one count was murder in the first degree after deliberation and with intent. That was count 1. Count 2 is murder in the first degree, child under 12, position of trust. She received life sentences on both of those 2 charges, but because there was only one victim, they actually merged together to just be one sentence. So she can only serve one sentence for those 2 charges. And it's 1 life in prison without parole sentence that are a result of that merging. Yes.
I just want to say, Landon, this is a hard question to answer, but Landon, you specifically said you've been waiting for this day for 3 years, more than 3 years. Just wondering, where do you 2 go from here? What's next for you 2?
We have a foundation for Gannon. I hope to put some work in it. So some other families, especially in Colorado and back in hometown, do not have to go through the things that families go through. Just doing things in Gannon's name. And then I'm gonna continue my life with my children, making sure that Lena and Nova know that Gannon is still here with us and not forgetting them. But I hope the world can be a better place, and I hope we can have Gannon's name and Gannon's foundation as a forefront or a blueprint to help others, if that makes sense, because that's all that he would want to do, and that's all he did and is still doing, is helping others. So
Colette, I just want to go home. It's got a few chuckles, but that's who I am. I just want to go home. Just want to go home and live that joy I talked about with my 6 kids. And Melissa, I can barely see her back there, but she's what makes my world go round. And I just want to go home.
All right, unless there are any other questions, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you all for being here.
Yeah, for sure, man. They can be as blunt as they want to be. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Something like that. See what happens. Thanks for coming over, Steph. And that was the press conference. Guilty on all counts. Letitia Stock. I thought it was really interesting too. He's like, I want the stripper of my last name. I was like, oh, can you do that? I wonder if you could do that or not. But yeah, no, he had a really heartfelt victim impact statement for sure. Felt for him. All right. Well, I'm gonna stop the live. Thanks for coming again, Steph. And see you next time.